VAATV, Vietnamese American Arizona Television.
Xin mời quý vị hãy bước vào chương trình Mái ấm tình thâm. Chương trình Mái ấm tình thâm là một diễn. Hello and welcome to VAATV Real Estate Talk Show with Scott Barlow and Linh Vi. Investing can be tricky, especially for beginners. However, with the right knowledge and understanding, you can achieve success in your investment. Our talk show is designed to bring out great topics for investors like you. We hope you enjoy the show and welcome to submit any feedback during and after the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to VAATV.com, to the Real Estate Show. And we have Mr. Scott Barlow from SF Fuller Real Estate. Hello, Scott.
Hi.
You look very nice with the red color. And you know what? The red color really bring luck for everything.
Is that right? I believe it's it's the Lunar New Year, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So then that's why. I mean, like with the Lunar New Year's, everyone, when they start do something, they wear red.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
May I say something to the audience?
Sure.
In Vietnamese?
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Can't wait.
Chúc mừng Năm Mới.
Wow.
I believe that's Happy New Year. So I want to wish everybody out there a Happy New Year, and I hope it's a prosperous year for everybody that's watching the show.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, that's very nice of you. So we come back to usually for the beginning of the year, everyone some of the superstitious things that they people don't want to fix the house and all that. And I just learned from an elder that say, oh, you shouldn't. And then we was planning to change the floor of the house, and now I realized I have to stop right away for that. A lot of things that I have to learn, but I didn't know. A lot of people say believe it to have it, but if not, then it's up to you. You know, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna come back, and you're gonna continue with whatever we share with our audience in regard to the real estate, the topic for the real estate.
So this week's show is actually talking about how to take a look at the market. And if we could have our first slide, please.
Yeah.
And so one of the first things we want to do is when we're trying to figure out how to invest properly in real estate, we want to start off with market analysis. And you can think of market analysis with macro, which is big, and it's can be the United States,
right? Or
micro, where it could be as small as a neighborhood
in the area,
in one particular subdivision. But in both cases, the information that you get can be very instructive. So when we're talking from the macro standpoint, if we're heading to a downturn in the economy, maybe it's not a good time to be paying top price. And with some of the interest rates, you may want to be looking for alternative methods for being able to go ahead and purchase property. But at the same time, every time that there's a change in the market, there are more opportunities. So when somebody is having a difficult time, they may need to sell. And if they need to sell quickly, you may be in a position where you can come in and you can buy at a discounted rate.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Now, at the same time, if you are in that type of situation where maybe somebody is going to want to sell, and I wouldn't necessarily say they're desperate, but they're really anxious to get something sold, you want to make sure that the property that you're looking at, that you aren't buying something that is not going to bounce back. You want to make sure that there's an opportunity either for it to be value added, or that it's something that has the potential down the road to be more valuable, or in today's market, in that particular location. And remember, we use the phrase location, location, location.
Yes.
So if you go back to that neighborhood and you look at that particular property and it compares very favorably to other properties that have been selling, then it might be the time to make a good move on that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because like if we don't pick the right, then we're going to lose some money out there.
Absolutely. And, you know, and we're right now, just looking at it from a statewide perspective, and then looking at it from the Phoenix perspective, even though we've kind of had some disappointing economic news where they've talked that the inflation rate is still not come down to the degree that they would like to see. Nevertheless, Phoenix has a lot of things going for it, and that's job and population growth.
Right. Yeah.
And so for the foreseeable future, looking at investing in real estate here makes sense. Now, there might be other areas where you might be looking, and there might be something going on there, and it may not make sense to invest in it. And I just use this in general terms, but if you look at some of the other larger cities that are along Detroit, Chicago, some of those types of cities, older cities, it may not be the time to invest in real estate there. So if you're going to invest in those areas, you need to familiarize yourself with the market is, get professional information, and there's sources out there. One of the first ones and the easiest ones that most people use when they're looking at houses, they use Zillow.
Zillow. Oh, okay.
Zillow, Realtor.org. And to give you a little information on how those work, both of them get their information from the local MLS system. The MLS is a multiple listing service, and that's where most of the realtors will list homes for sale. And I use the phrase list homes because it's not quite the same as for homes, for commercial property as it is for homes. There's other sources that you want to go to for commercial properties. The other thing I might caution you on is if you look at Zillow and there's a price on there and you're looking at a duplex or a fourplex, remember you can use residential financing on that. Zillow may not have the correct algorithms to realize that is an apartment.
Apartment or like a zoning, right?
What they'll do is they'll look at it as residential, but they tend to look at it through the eyes of being a single family property. So you could be looking at a fourplex and it gives you a price, and it may not be accurate. So
I see, like if people turn into that Zillow, they will see the information, the financing information, and all the calculation like that. They need the expert to do that, not that they calculate it themselves right there, then this won't make the right figure.
That's true. And one of the things about Zillow is they're going to use generalities. They're not going to use specifics. So once again, it goes back to use somebody that knows the area, knows how to get the correct financing on those properties. I mean, you can use Zillow as kind of a rule of thumb to kind of quickly sort through some, but if you're looking to do a detailed analysis, there's other and better ways of doing it.
Yeah, because we mentioned before too about the price. So Zillow price sometimes it's not like the same at the price they listed. Maybe higher, maybe a lower, right?
Yes.
So it's not really. It's just something information they picked up from the time there, but it's not really accurate as much as when
Zillow tends to be fairly close. When you have a subdivision where, say you've got a builder and he's doing 1,000 homes in a subdivision, and if he comes in and he's building 5 or 6 different models, most likely they're going to be fairly accurate because there's enough data in the tax records and the public records for them to pull that information. They may not be down to the nth degree. For example, if you got one house here, and they've got just a plain backyard, but you got another house over here, and they've got a swimming pool. Though the values on them may be slightly different. So that they may not pick up all of that information.
So do you think it's a good idea where people invest in far, like from where they live?
I'm not a fan of it myself, and I've said the phrase, nobody cares about your money as much as you do. One of the things that I've done over the years, and especially with my clients who have been purchasing investment property, is I tell them, before you make this purchase, go buy that property, drive by it at night. Go through it. If it's got a parking lot, go through it at night. Go through it during the day. You can tell a lot by what's going on in the parking lot. If there's unusual things, if there's lights out in the parking lot, do you feel safe in the parking lot at night? Those are questions you can ask. On the same token, if you drive through there during the day and you see a bunch of broken down cars and trash and everything, it can lead you to other ideas. On the other hand, if you drive through the parking lot and you see Lexuses and Acras and nice cars, it kind of gives you an idea
like safe, right?
That it's a little bit safer. Yes, exactly
people
right.
Own the car, they won't like to say.
The key thing is go by and take a look at your property. What you're continuing to protect your investment. Maybe you have a property manager, but if you go by, you may spot something the property manager hasn't, or you may find that the property manager hasn't been as diligent as they should be.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So that's why, I always think when we invest something, it's got to be within our reach so that we can always come around.
Yes.
And look at.
I can tell you, it's not a funny story in respect to laughing, but it's I represented 3 different families. They purchased 3 duplexes in Phoenix that were built in 2005.
Oh, okay.
And these folks were from Northern California. They were all related. They were brother and sister-in-laws throughout the whole family. So each one of them bought a duplex. And when it came time to sell it, they had never been back in 15 years to actually look at the property. They depended on their property manager. When it came time to sell it, they were appalled with when I showed them pictures and sent them what the property looked like. It had gone from brand new to just being very worn down and had a lot of deferred maintenance. So it was completely a case of where if they had come over and they had looked at it, they could have done some things to either prod the property manager to make make the appropriate repairs.
Right.
Certainly kept the property in better condition. And at the time of the sale, they, in my opinion, lost money because of deferred maintenance.
Yeah, that's true. We have to keep up with the property, because if we don't maintain it, then the value will lost the value.
And that's exactly it.
And more heavy or like more major when it's come to repair.
Absolutely. And think of your own home.
Yeah.
If you didn't take care of repairs, like say you've got a leaky sink or you've got a toilet that's running all the time. If you didn't take care of those items, what's it going to lead to? It's going to lead it to worse things. A leaking water, a leaking roof and plumbing leaks, those are the types of things that create mold and can create problems inside a building. Oftentimes, if you have tenants, tenants are not as eager, they're not as proactive to take care of the property as the owner would be. So, I want to remind everybody that if you do have a property and it's a rental property, under the Arizona Landlord-Tenant Act, you are allowed to make inspections. So it almost behooves you maybe once a year to send a written notice to your tenant and then go out and look at the property. Look for the types of things that would have a debilitating effect on the value of your property.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's a good way. And also, check on the filter, like AC filter, air filter, and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
While you're on the air conditioning filter, you don't have to buy the expensive ones, because if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you're going to see some that are up to $20 for a single filter. Some of the air conditioning guys I know, they say it doesn't matter.
Right.
Even if you get a cheap filter. Yeah. But the key thing is change it once a month.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
That's the key thing. Is just keep changing that filter.
And it's also healthier for the person stay within, inside the house. So if they want to live in a good environment, then that's the only way that they can keep track for themselves, right, as well.
What I've done in the past, and I've got tenants right now, what I've done with them is I buy the filters for a year, and then when it's time for me to get a check, I get a dirty filter and a check.
And then you check. Oh, okay. And then, that's a good idea, right? You put a little bit of money more out there, but then you can have a good return.
Absolutely. And I'm protecting air conditioning units, which is probably one of the more expensive fixes.
Right, because a lot of people get tired of investing into like a apartment or home or something where they rent it out because they always get bad return.
Absolutely. Yep.
The repair. Okay. So next one that we're gonna.
What's our next slide? And this is a comparative market analysis.
Okay.
So think of the comparative market analysis. We have a specific property in mind.
Right.
Let's just say that it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house.
Right.
And it's sitting on a standard lot, which may be in the range of around 7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
The house itself may be around 1,300 to 1,400 square feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for other homes in the neighborhood, built similar years, has similar quality of construction, similar number of bedrooms, similar number of baths, similar size lot, and see what those sold for. And those become what we use to compare what that property is.
Right.
That's much the same way that an appraiser is going to go through when they do their appraisal. They'll also look for the closer that they can find for other sales, and that's why I go back to Zillow is okay in a subdivision.
To find out, when the property sold and all that. What if in the neighborhood there's none list for sale?
Well, that's where it becomes very tough, and especially with custom homes, it becomes much more difficult because now, in most cases they prefer to have the comps, and that's what we call when you're looking at comparative market analysis, we refer to the properties as comps or comparables. But if you're doing an appraisal or if you're doing a comparative market analysis and you have an expensive home, say you've got a 4,000 square foot home with a swimming pool, 4-car garage, 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and it's sitting on acreage. Maybe it's sitting on 2 acres, maybe an acre. Now you've got to start going out into a wider area to look for other homes that are similar, that have this, because once again, we're looking for the size of the lot, we're looking for the square footage of the home, bedrooms, baths, the levels of amenities. And it's not unusual for appraisers, when they're trying to do an appraisal on a house like that, to look at other listings that have sold and look at the pictures and even call the agents to ask them, what level of amenities, what was the deferred maintenance, because it makes a big difference if you've got inexpensive carpeting versus a home that's got travertine.
Right.
So you start really getting in and having to define those individual features that can bring the value of the home up significantly.
So usually you think like as far as for the flooring, what type of the flooring that will make the value of the property more?
Well, generally speaking, I'm a fan of hard surfaces.
Okay. And hardwood floor?
Hardwood floors are okay. Tile, stone floors are good. I've seen some beautiful stained concrete floors.
Yeah.
But
stained concrete?
Yes.
Wow,
some of it looks
really?
Some of it is very, very, very luxurious.
Wow.
But and some of it's stamped.
Oh.
With so it looks almost like tiles. Some of it's got little designs in it.
Oh, wow.
But some of those types of concrete floors look really beautiful. But you have to have a good tradesman to.
Yeah, it's really depend on the style of the home as well.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So your flooring, as well as the rest of the decor, needs to be in tune with the style of the home.
Right, very in tune. Yeah.
But as I said, as far as flooring is concerned, both on apartments as well as my own home, I prefer a hard surface.
Hard surface, yeah.
And the reason being, well, I have a big dog.
Yeah, easy to clean. Yeah.
Very easy to clean. Let's face it, no matter how well trained a dog is, there's always accidents.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it makes it very easy to clean up. On the flip side, carpeting to me has a tendency to be left well after its useful life. Carpeting should only probably be left, especially in a high traffic area, just a few years before replacing. And then it soils, retains the soil, it mats down, its appearance over time really is diminished. Plus, it can hold allergens, it can hold dirt in it. If it's been wet, if you've had dog problems, cat problems, it can retain odors. So I'm not nearly as much of a fan over carpeting. What I do like, and I know that a lot of folks, they don't want to, in their own bedrooms, they want some type of a softer surface. So carpeting is probably pretty appropriate there.
Just for the bedroom.
For the bedrooms, yes. Area rugs in some of the other rooms are a good feature to add on top of that hard surface. But you think about it, on the flip side, that's on your own home. But think about it as far as a rental is concerned. Because I know I've had my own rentals, and usually I had to plan on every 3 to 5 years replacing carpet in bedrooms. In one case where I had 2 sets of tenants, and they both placed the TV and the couch in the same position. So when the second set of tenants moved out, there was a definite area where in front of where the couch was, where it was dirtier than the rest of the floor from feet, as well as it was more matted down. So it created a wear pattern. So what I ended up doing was I put in 18-inch tile in there, and now I've taken away that wear pattern.
Yeah,
issue.
right. Yeah, that's true. Tile.
So when it comes to tenants and apartments, the hard surface has an economic impact as well.
It doesn't have to replace more often when they
That's
move
correct.
down. Yeah, that's true. Right.
It's a little bit more expensive at the forefront when you're putting it in, but even now they make some of this luxury vinyl planking that goes in, and some of that looks really good as well. But there are, what I would say is there's a number of flooring stores out there, and you can get some relatively inexpensive flooring that creates that hard surface that's great for a rental property.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, depend on the style, because sometimes like when we like certain kind of floor, but doesn't match with that current style right there. Yeah, like
quite true.
Yeah, can't. It's hard for designer. Okay, so then you mentioned the importance of the location. We gotta pick the right location for the investment, and then we gotta know if that's gonna bring the value for the future,
right? By
compare with other house in the neighbor.
Well,
right?
in doing the comparative market analysis, that keeps you from overpaying, but it also gives you an idea of what its present value is.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to need that present value because if you're going to get a loan, you're going to it's going to have to be appraised.
Yeah.
So the more accurate that comparative market analysis is, the more likely you're going to be right in tune with what the appraiser is going to have. And from my experience, selling a number of different types of properties, what I find not so much in subdivisions where you have many of the same model of home that's being done, that one's pretty easy. But when it comes to certain types of commercial properties, apartment buildings, I find that lately appraisers are calling the agents that were the selling agent. And so they'll ask them questions about what the condition of it was inside. And then things like what we just got done talking about with the carpeting and appliances, all of those have a value to them.
Do you think like for the investment, for the house that you lease it out, or for the apartment, whatever, is it good to have the appliance inside, like a refrigerator, like dishwasher, like stove and all that?
Well,
or dryer washer?
Generally speaking, on my apartments, I've always provided those.
Yeah.
It seems to be one of those things that's more attractive to potential tenants. I mean,
when they broke, they call you. When there's something, doesn't work, then they keep calling you.
Well, and this is kind of an alternative. I know that there's a lot of folks out there. You can either buy, and I've done both. I bought brand new packages of washer, dishwasher, microwave, and the stove. Had those all installed, and I kept a home warranty on those, so that if there was a problem, that I could call a technician, pay the service fee, and have that repaired. On the other hand, sometimes with some apartments, washers and dryers, I tend not to buy brand new. And there's a couple of different companies here in town where you can buy a used or a refurbished washer and dryer. And they'll deliver it. They'll take the old ones if they're broken, replace them. And in many cases, they do have a warranty on it. It may only be for 6 months, but generally speaking, on those types of washers and dryers, if they're going to have a problem, it's going to be within that time period. And they last a long time if they were cared for.
Yeah, because so those are good things to have it, but like to maintain it. That's something that's why it's good that you stay close to the property, and you can something happen like that, you can solve right away for
exactly
them
right.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing we know, like if people want to invest into apartment instead of like single like house in a lot, because with the apartment, then as always have association is nothing gonna go so wrong, right? Versus the single in a lot.
Well, you can have some of the same problems with an apartment building, but of course, as we talked about before, one of the things about an apartment building is the more tenants you have. So if you've got a fourplex, now you have 4 stoves, you got 4 dishwashers, 4 refrigerators. So those
more to carry,
more to care for, and then it's like anything else. Some things wear out, but you can spread your risk out over time.
I see. Okay, that's a good point. And then how about the interest rate? Do you follow up with, like, do you think it's going to go up or down? Or
well, I think that the Fed is, with what they talked about here lately, that the interest rate did not come down as much as they had hoped for. In fact, I think it went up just slightly. I think that the Fed is going to sit and wait again. That's just my guess. And it may mean that interest rates don't come down as quick as some people were predicting. But, every time you get into an election year, certainly
it's going to be change. Yeah,
you're going to get change. Congress is going to do things, has the potential to do things to affect it. So we may see some change there. But, one last thing before we get off the topic of comparative market analysis. If you were looking at a fourplex or a duplex or a triplex or even an apartment building, included in that analysis, you want to know what your income is, what your expenses are. So there will be an income analysis that you do on those buildings. And so when you're doing the comparative market analysis and you've got your building here that you're looking at buying, and you've got 3 or 4 other buildings you're looking at, you want to see where those rents compared to the one that you're in. Because say that you look at those other buildings and they sold for a nice price, and they were all at the average market rent for the Phoenix area, say about $1,400 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. So, and you look at yours, you're paying a little bit lesser price, and you're only getting $1,100 a month. So you want to make sure that the quality of the building is enough so that you will be able to raise that rent and get it up to market value.
Right. Because when you within like a complex or something, you cannot rent it out so much higher or different than the current other property, the same block. Right? Yeah,
it becomes much more difficult to go beyond everybody.
Yeah.
But by the same token, if you don't take care of your property, your property tends to be known as one that has issues. And so it becomes more difficult to rent it. Here in Mesa, there's a street that I've sold a couple of fourplexes on. And in talking with some of the different owners, it's kind of funny because when the owners come in and they renovate an apartment building, all of a sudden they get tenants from other apartments coming over and scurrying, trying to rent from their building. Because everybody wants to have a nicer home.
Yeah. They want to rent like a new place.
Exactly right.
Yeah, right. That's good. Okay.
We have our next slide, please.
So we're going to have...
So here we are, the importance of location. And I can't emphasize it enough. Location, location, location. You can have a very nice subdivision, but if it's too far away from jobs, if it's too far away from
bus stop or any
shopping
market,
or anything, and the roads are lousy to get to it, you're going to have a difficult time filling it. By the same token, and this is just kind of a commercial observation, I know that there's a subdivision or a little building center that was originally built, and it was intended to be used for doctors and dentists. Well, where do doctors want to have their practices? Relatively close to the hospital.
It's true. Something happened. Or they can get the patient from there.
They can get the patient there, but they can also, it makes it easier for them to go back and forth. And so a lot of times you'll see individual doctors' offices and hospitals located in close proximity to each other. In this particular little office complex, it was built with that intention, and they got a children's dentistry in there. But they couldn't. The building sat vacant for years. And they were what we call gray slab. The outside of the building was finished, but the inside, it was poured concrete with the conduits coming up out of the slab. So it was awaiting being finished. What happened in that case was, where this little office complex was, it was in a neighborhood where there were a lot of kids and a lot of schools and everything. So I ended up leasing out to a Montessori school. A dance studio went in. So it ended up, now you drive through there, it's completely full, but instead of being a medical complex,
so it's become it's something for the kid.
Exactly, for the children. So that's one reason why location is important.
Right. That's true, because you have to think, okay, what kind of business that can be operate for that area.
Correct.
Right?
And at the same token, you notice how you see Fry's grocery stores or Home Depot. They're kind of spread out. The reason being, they come in and they'll do a demographic study. They know how much sales they need at that store for a given period of time. If they get too close together, they're basically stealing business from each other.
That's true.
And that location is just not that valuable. But if they can select the right location, know what they've got coming in, and the right types of people, because they're looking for, typically, with Home Depot, you're looking for small contractors, and you're looking for a growing area where homeowners are upgrading their homes themselves, the do-it-yourselfers. So that's how they get a steady flow. But they do pay attention to demographics and look for what they see as far as growth in the area.
The only thing I think, like, if people do like a restaurant or something, they can do different type of food, and maybe that area become like famous for food, everything.
And you're exactly right. Food courts and those types of things, they do attract a lot of people, and there is crossover there. I represented a business a few years ago who did ice cream cones. And they wanted to be co-located next to restaurants because they weren't selling the dinner. But when people would come out, an ice cream cone might be a good alternative to having dessert there in that restaurant. And it was something that the customers could take with them. So that was a good marketing decision they made. And so location. Once again, they wanted to be close by other restaurants and other food related businesses.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. So I think yes, location is very important. If we gotta have to have a thinking, like, okay, you buy something, you invest, and what type if there's a commercial, then what type of business the people can be there, right? To operate.
But once again, that's where I tell clients, if you're looking to put a home or to buy a home, go out to the subdivision and take a look. Is this drive too far for you? If it's too far for you and your work, it's going to be difficult to try to get a tenant to get in there.
Right. Because you want to get to the area where easier for job, for grocery, or for daily activity, things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's convenient for them, and they don't have to drive too far. Then that become value. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the next one, you want to talk about is about what economic?
If we could have our economic indicators. So this is one of those things that we were just talking about, and you know, we talked real briefly about the inflation rate.
Right.
A lot of economists are paying a lot of attention to the inflation rate.
Okay.
And because if you think about it, the price of goods and services has gone up significantly. For the average person, you can tell as soon as you go to the grocery store how much things have gone up. The price of eggs, the price of milk, those types of things. And those are real indicators of money coming out of your pocket.
Right.
And you're not necessarily getting the dollar value that you were earlier on those. So that has a method for reducing your buying power.
Right.
Pardon me. But if you're looking to see where the state is, and this is, once again, this is one of those things where you're paying attention to what's happening here locally. You know, Arizona's always had kind of a boom and bust economy. And after the last bust, the governmental organizations, Maricopa Association of Government, they've gone out and they've done a lot of work to try to bring in high-tech businesses.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the reasons why we're going through a boom on jobs, is because those businesses are coming in. So there are a multitude of places where you can get economic information on what's happening in the state. One of them is through the universities, because they both, Arizona State as well as University of Arizona, they both do economic studies on the state, so that they track what's the actual income across the area, what is it per capita, how many housing starts are being done, what's the population growth, those types of things. Not only are those predictors important to government as they start to put in new roads, or they put in, you know, maybe they're building new fire stations or police stations, but as time goes on, those types of indicators are the things that an investor looks for. Because as we said a few minutes ago, when you're seeing that kind of change, that kind of growth, there's always opportunities.
Right. Because like I see all of your explanation is really a good key point for everyone. It's not simple, like come in and just like something, okay, buy it. You know, like there's so many numbers, so many study, so many area to focus to.
Well, and you know, if you're starting off, you shouldn't get worried and have to think about looking everything to the nth degree.
Right.
In some cases, especially if you're looking at just buying a single family home, simply looking at, all right, what's the overall economy? Just listen to the news. Pick up the newspaper. You don't need to be an economist to have everything, but there are some sources. So look at what the long range projection for the valley is, or if you want to go outside the valley to Tucson or some of the other areas within the state. Same thing applies if you're in a different state and you've got different municipalities. But there is information out there. Most of it is public information. Most of it's free if you look.
Wow.
So you take a look at that from the big picture, but then start narrowing it down. And if you like a particular subdivision and you think that it's a place where it's good to have tenants, then you can work and you can get that comparative market analysis, especially if you got a property picked out. And if you know that it's an easy area to rent, and you can buy it at a rate with the interest rate, so that you're going to have cash flow from it, then it would make sense right from the very beginning.
That's true. Right. Yep. Really makes sense. So, and then when the people they invest, of course, like they have to do some work. They have to do. You know, because it's different. Like if they don't put the time out to for the real estate, it's different than the stock and bond. You know, sit there and with the paperwork and pick and choose and buy something. But then it's different.
That's true. But also think about the stock market.
Yeah.
You know, you got the Dow Jones Industrial, and most, you know, all of the brokerage houses. If you go to their websites, there is constantly a ticker on there telling you what's going on with a particular stock. So you can almost follow it minute by minute as it's trading on the floor.
Yeah. depend on how they want it. For me, it's so scary. I mean, like my heart was beating if it's low, too low, and just like it's not stable.
My 92-year-old mother follows the stock market.
Really? Wow.
And I think what she has learned over the years is she only looks at her stocks once a week.
Oh.
I mean, she follows things in general terms, but she really only looks at it once a week. And, the old saying, hold and let it grow slowly.
Yeah.
That works. But by the same token, depending on what kind of industry that you invest in,
right,
you could invest in something that's pretty volatile.
Yeah.
And so then you need a little more expertise. You need to follow it closer.
Right.
But it was
not too aggressive, for those, and then just can stable yourself.
Just in the stock market, what you look for is long-term winners. Warren Buffett, everybody knows his name. That's Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
Always a good place. General Electric, General Dynamics, Ford Motor Company. They have their ups and downs, but generally speaking,
Yahoo, like Amazon or something.
Absolutely, they're good companies that have a good track record over time.
Right.
On a day-to-day basis, you may have a heart attack.
Oh I know. Just like, oh my God. But if because with the stock, if you have your own money and you don't have to sell something to pay back the interest, then you let it stay, right? Still, even though it's low, but it's still there. The money's still there.
But once again, when it comes to stocks and bonds, I'm not enough of an expertise. Or I don't have enough expertise to be able to really properly manage it. So I have a financial advisor that watches it much closer than I do.
Because you think about, like, okay, let's say if for the young age, then we have more energy to be out there to look for property, to analyze things, and to even like managers and make things better and all. But if as time as I get older, then we have to think about, right? You don't have enough energy to keep driving or do things, right? So there's something got to be more, not too much of the work for the outside work.
Well, and hopefully what you've done over time is you've learned the business well enough that your expertise is what you're relying on.
Yeah, right. So then because I see, and then like a lot of people, let's say if they post the sale and the reason is like they say, oh, we retire, we getting old and we want to sell everything we have, So and then that's bring to the point like, okay, good, we can buy those, but down the line we have to think the same way.
Yes.
It's just that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think like we're gonna have like about 10 more minutes to say something before.
Can we get our next slide, please?
Yeah.
Demographic trends. I'm going to go through this one real quickly, but once again, there's plenty of public information out there, and here in the and I use the Phoenix area. There are changes coming here.
Yeah.
And if you compare where we were a few years ago, there are certain towns that tended to have more 55 plus communities.
Yes.
In other words, they were more retirement related.
Right.
And then there were other areas of town where we had universities, and they tended to cluster with more professionals, more high tech, and a younger crowd of folks. Those types of things will continue, but I think that the idea of having the convenience of being able to get to services, entertainment, jobs, and everything will continue to be very important. And the other thing too is many of these cities are starting to see real growth in the per capita income.
Oh,
so it's a positive sign that we have good changes coming here to the valley.
That's great. Yeah. So it's time for the investment. Looking for.
Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Supply and demand.
Right.
Well,
supply and demand. Yeah.
Right now,
is that enough? Enough supply.
Right now, across the state, there's a sense that we are very short on affordable housing.
Yeah.
And if you took the average renter, they can't afford to go buy a house. It used to be a few years back before the interest rates went so crazy we were sitting there at about $430,000 was the average price of the house.
Oh.
Nearly 70% of the buyers out there, when the rates were down around 3%, could buy. Now that the interest rates have gone up, that same house, it's still, the average price is still around $430,000, but because of the interest rates going up, many of the average buyers who could have bought it years ago can no longer buy it. So now, instead of being 70% of the folks out there could buy an average home, now it's down to about 26%.
Oh.
And it's the major factor that's affecting it is the interest rate, because the gap there is enough to force them from being able to afford a $430,000 average home, maybe down to $360,000 or $350,000 with what they could afford for a payment. So that's pushing a lot of people out of housing. At the same token, you've got sellers who would like to move up to a larger house. Maybe they bought a house a few years ago. They had that mortgage on there where they were paying 3%, and they've seen the values of the prices of homes around them go up. But they're looking and they go, I don't want to sell right now, because if I sell, what am I going to do? I'm going to get a mortgage that's got a 7% interest rate. So they're going to be fighting that. And so that gap in what they can afford has really gotten larger. And that's one reason people aren't putting their houses up for sale as fast, and other people aren't able to buy them as fast. We have something of a balanced market pretty close right now, but it's not completely healthy based off what a metropolitan area our size would be.
Wow. Yeah.
But that's not to say that there are people out there every day who are buying. And all the more reason for a lot of the things that we were talking about tonight, paying attention to it so that you don't make the wrong decision in this environment.
That's true.
Some of the things that I hear lenders are talking about, they're saying, they're telling you, go ahead and buy the house you want right now. They're doing some different types of financing where they can do a buy down on the interest rate, short term, and with the hope that by the end of the year that they can refinance at lower rates.
Yeah.
So, that it's a little bit speculative, but some of it does make sense if you can get it. The builders in particular are doing fairly well, but they also almost automatically are doing some type of a buy down.
Wow. Yeah, I think the buy down of the rate. But then if they decided to stay longer in the house, then the buy down rate will help for the entire term. But if they decided just like a year or so, is that good to buy down?
Most of the buy downs are short term.
Short term.
So maybe, give you an example. Maybe the interest rate's 7%.
Yeah.
They buy it down 2%. So now for the first 2 years, you're at 5%. But year 3, it goes back up.
Go back up. Wow. Oof.
I mean, that's kind of a simplified explanation of it, but it does illustrate that.
Like or like if they go to the program where a balloon, and then after like certain period, and it's gonna go based on adjustable, and then that's just like a play in the it's a game ball for the market interest rate. Yeah, the time.
I don't see a lot of residential properties going with balloons.
Yeah.
Typically, it's more along the lines of commercial properties, but and when it comes to commercial properties anyway, they typically go through a refinancing every 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
And that's an entirely different market, a little more complicated, and so maybe we can do that in a future show.
That's true.
Next slide, please. Historical data analysis. And of course, this is one of those things that you do want to pay attention to. It gives you ideas into what's happened in the market in a particular area. And what you'll see is that if you take a look at some of the sub-markets, especially in Phoenix, it's interesting over time. There is kind of a ebb and flow as far as values. 40 years ago, some of the areas, especially in the Arcadia area, they were building all kinds of new homes. smaller homes in that area, and they were very popular because they were close to Camelback, they were close to some of the business centers, they were close to shopping, all those types of things. But 40 years in a house, that house wears down. Now that same area is hot because now you have people coming in, and where you might have had 2 or 3 single family homes, they're buying the 2 and 3 single family homes. They're coming in with a bulldozer, tearing them all down, and they're building a big McMansion there. Why? Because of the location. It's close to all of those the shopping, the jobs, and everything. And it's a beautiful area. So it's one of those things where you pay attention to it, and you see some people call it the gentrification. But nevertheless, it's older neighborhoods, and you look at what the progress has been, and now people are coming back and they're buying the buildings and repurposing them or refurbishing them, or in some cases just tearing them down and putting up something new. But the idea is that that area is still valuable because of where it's located.
Wow. Yeah. That's good.
Next slide, please. Property specifics. And I know we've kind of talked about some of these in some of the other slides, but when it comes to the property you're buying, you really do need to pay attention to it. If, for example, if you bought a house that was maybe constructed in the 1970s, they used aluminum for the interior wiring.
Oh.
That was, at the time, that was very popular. And there's really nothing wrong with it as long as you understand the drawbacks to using aluminum. Almost all of the electric that we have in our homes these days has gone back to copper.
Oh, okay. Is it better? Copper better?
Copper is better. The problem with aluminum is over time, it expands and contracts a little bit, and it also can oxidize. So what you have is sometimes you can have, like your outlets that are in the wall.
Not sticky, not the right.
The expansion and contraction, the screws that hold that together can loosen up. And you can get a little arcing.
Like we cannot use like the outlet. When you push some things, using it is so loose. Like you cannot even fit it. Oh, really?
So copper holds better. And in many cases, there's some fixes for it. But I've seen a lot of homeowners who they're looking at some of those older homes, and so they want to avoid that. Like I said, there's some fixes for it. It's not, if you understand how to work with it, it's just fine.
That's true. Right.
One thing that is definitely happening right now is in the air conditioning industry, they're changing a lot of the coolants that are being used in them. And what we're going to see is pricing on new air conditioning units start going up significantly.
Wow.
It already has happened. So Freon, which everybody was familiar with, and then R22, those are phased out. So some of the other more exotic things that have come out in just the last couple of years are they're on their way out as well. So you should be aware that to put in a new air conditioning system may be a significant amount of cost. Another aspect that I want to talk about is roofs. Roofs.
Okay.
Here in Arizona, we see an awful lot of tile roofs.
Right.
The tile itself, especially the cast concrete tile that we have on so many homes, has got a great long-term lifespan to it. But that's not all of your roof. The tile is only a portion of a system that protects your home.
Right.
Underneath the roof itself, there's an underlaminate. Some people call it tar paper in years gone by, but it's definitely a material that's made to go over the sheathing, the plywood or whatever that makes up the outer layer of the wood portion of the roof. But they put that over it, and that's what kind of creates your waterproof barrier. You put the tile over that to protect it, and the tile, of course, has both a function of protection as well as attractiveness. But while that tile can last 30, 40, 50 years with the concrete molding on it, the underneath laminate may only last 15 years to 20 years. And so what happens is it starts peeling, it starts cracking, and you can develop leaks where water can trickle in and it comes through. In most cases, when it gets to that age and it's in that kind of condition, what you see is that you'll have a roofing company come out and they'll take all the tiles off, stack it, take all the old underlaminate off, and put brand new underlaminate on. It's a fairly expensive fix, but it's with some of the older homes, it's the only way that you can fix it and keep it from leaking.
Oh, yeah. Too much to know about these. Yeah. So we had to have the expert to do the home inspection and
absolutely
can figure from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can we get our next slide, please? Future development plans. Well, this is one of those where, you almost say you're looking into a crystal ball, but
okay.
It's
Come on, give me a future. Give me a future.
Exactly right. So one of the things that's always interesting is, back in 2006, 2007, 2008, there were people that were buying up big chunks of land. I shouldn't say people, companies that were buying up big chunks of land.
Yeah, just the land.
You had people, home builders, D.R. Horton, Pulte, some of the big home builders. They were buying land for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And, the thing about a corporation versus a person, you look at General Electric. General Electric's been around for over 100 years.
Yeah.
There are very few people that have been around for 100 years.
That's true, because only them providing the electricity for the city.
Electricity and all kinds of other things.
Right.
So, but the lifespan of the corporation is such that they have their own economists, they're doing their own demographics, and they're looking long-term, way out in the future. So they can afford to sit and
waiting.
Something happens, they can buy it, they can sit on that land and hold it, and then when the timing's right, they can start developing it. So the interesting thing is I recently sold a property for an investor, and the home that she had, it was a rental, it was in a subdivision that was pretty far out there, far East Valley, out in on the far southeastern edge of Santan Valley. And when she bought it, there was nothing around. Her subdivision was there, maybe about 500 houses.
Right.
It was fields everywhere around them.
Wow.
Now, there's 3 other big subdivisions going in right across the street from her.
Wow.
They've already put in the Central Arizona Community College campus for Santan Valley out there. And so the growth is coming all around her. Now selling her property was easier now because
there's development,
exactly
new
right.
development in there. But I was thinking, is that like CD of Santan or Queen Creek? Or, I didn't know what they mentioned something about water underneath of the foundation.
Well, Santan Valley is an unincorporated area. It's got a post office name to it, but I know that Queen Creek is annexing portions of Santan Valley. It's like I said, it's unincorporated.
Wow.
But it's an area that's got almost 100,000 people.
Yeah. It's growing. And then I suddenly heard that, and then people start selling and moving out. I didn't know, it was just but it's a beautiful house because it's all new. Yeah, it's a new city, it's new house, big, young mansion.
But the problem was there weren't enough freeways out there. The access to freeway travel was very poor. So the commute was crazy. But
smaller roads, smaller.
Absolutely. They've improved a number of the roads. State Route 24 is opened up so you can get onto the 22 or the Loop 202 relatively easily. And at the same time, they're building businesses out there. LG, the Korean company, is building a big battery plant out there. And the city of Queen Creek is helping to pay for some of the infrastructure going in there. Because they're looking at just that. The construction on that, I believe, is around $5.7 billion, and they're anticipating 3,500 employees. So
more people can get job there in that area.
Absolutely.
Get job and get house.
Yes.
Right.
Next slide, please. I think we're probably getting close to the end.
Yeah, we almost got a few minutes.
Alrighty. So rental market analysis. This is very specific to the local area.
Yes.
And downtown Phoenix has far more ability to pull because of all the things we talked about: the access to education, the access to business, to jobs, to shopping, where they can command a higher market, whereas out in Santan Valley, just in the area we were talking about, it was much lower just because fewer people that wanted to go there. So when you're looking at an investment property, it behooves you to take a look at
because people want to rent it, so that they want to rent where they are close to their work.
Yes.
Or because sometimes, like when you see very poor area, but if it's close to their job, they'll have to rent it in that area.
Exactly
it's not
right.
like it have to be really fancy or nice place, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what that is that like the topic that you have for this week for them. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So I think like it's a lot though. You make the very strong point in the investment of the property, of the real property, and all those areas that we have to look at before you decided to buy the area, to buy the property in that area, and so many things. So thank you so much, Scott, for a great show today. You have all things written down and very organizing one by one, very easy to understand, and hope that's going to bring a great knowledge to everyone for the investment of the property. Yeah. And if you like more information, or is something like a little bit different that you didn't hear from today, or more different detail for the area, then please you can reach out to Mr. Scott Barlow at the address and the information right on the screen, and you can ask any question from buying, selling, rental, you name it, all that.
Absolutely. Be happy to help you out with it, and hopefully you have a happy and prosperous new year.
All right. Thank you. Hello. Bye. Thank you. See you later. Next show.
Linh Vi xin cảm ơn sự theo dõi của tất cả quý vị trong những giây phút vừa qua. Chương trình VAATV xin kính chào, tạm biệt và xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị vào lần phát hình kỳ tới. Mọi chi tiết về thông tin thương mại và bảo trợ, xin mời quý vị hãy liên lạc về địa chỉ email vaatelevision@gmail.com và số điện thoại là 480 289 9816 480 289 9816, website vaatv.com và vaaznews.com.